My husband left me 8 years ago for his mistress Dina. Dina and my ex-husband ended up having kids immediately, before the ink on the divorce papers could even dry. My kids were 6 and 5 at the time and are now 14 and 13. My ex-husband and Dina's kids are 8 and 7 and 5. They aren't fond of Dina. They said she talked badly about me to them, that she calls herself their mom, and that she's kinda pushy. Basic stepmom grievances, can't blame them, they still enjoy time with their dad, so it's not a big deal until they make it one. I have 3/4 custody. So 1 week out of the month they see him. Apparently old habits die hard, and my ex is leaving Dina for another woman. During drop-offs and pickups Dina cries and tells me how stupid she feels and that she regrets trusting him. Call me heartless, but I don't care. At all. She took me aside to chat and I humored her expecting an apology since she now understood what she put me through. She asked if her kids can still have a relationship with mine. I told her that her kids with my ex-husband have nothing to do with me and I won't be looking to split custody or facilitate any extra meetings outside of custody overlaps. She asked if I could make sure that when her kids are dropped of mine are too. I told her bluntly to work it out with him and to leave me alone. She cried and told me that I was a heartless mother and had no idea what not seeing her stepchildren would do to her. And that she wants to still be able to see them. I told her bluntly, no. She's not their mom. That if she wants to see my kids she's out of her beans and that this is what comes with breaking up a family. I discussed the possibility of not seeing Dina as much with my kids and they shrugged it off as finally, and my ex-husband is too busy planning his next wedding to care. My mother thinks I'm being bitter and selfish and that since Dina finally knows my pain I can at the very least try to be kind to her. Not the idiot. The golden rule of dating cheaters is, if they cheated with you, they will cheat on you. Sounds like Dina learned that the hard way. It sounds like Dina has been pushing your boundaries since the beginning, first by cheating with your husband, then by trying to make your kids call her mom, and now by continuing to expect you to engage with her, despite the fact that you no longer have any reason to. She is reaping what she has sowed. You are absolutely right to suggest that any custody negotiation she wants to make about her kids' visits with their dad needs to be coordinated between the two of them. Getting involved in any way with someone else's custody arrangement seems like a terrible idea. Don't go out of your way to prevent your kids from seeing their half-siblings when they are with their dad if there are no major problems. I mean, don't specifically change times solely because you know the other kids will be there. It is the responsibility of the common parent to facilitate the relationship. She's welcome to put her kids on the same schedule as your kids so they all get to see each other, but that's between her and your, now mutual, ex. If he's having a birthday party for a half-sibling when it's your time, it would be kind to let your kids attend if they want. Kids don't need to suffer, but it's not about you bending over backwards for a woman who tried to push you out for years and now finds herself in your shoes. You don't owe Dina a single damn thing. She didn't show any kindness or consideration for you or your kids when she had an affair with your husband. She didn't show any consideration for you when she badmouthed you to your kids, and she didn't even have the grace to apologize when karma came around to bite her, and she finally experienced a taste of what she and your ex put your family through. She can kick rocks. My stepbrother is going through a divorce. He has a 10-year-old son and a 7-year-old son with his wife. The boys are not thrilled about the divorce and are even less thrilled that he already has a significant other. He moved out 6 months ago and they started dating 2 months ago, but he wants to introduce them. He has tried talking to the boys about how happy he was when his parents divorced because it meant he got the real family and how much of a relief it is when your parents finally say they're breaking up. The boys said they didn't feel that way. They wanted their family to still be their family, to be together, etc. He asked me, 23, to speak to them and tell them I was happy too, I was relieved too, and how much of the burden was lifted when it happened. Only I didn't feel that way. I was devastated when my parents told me. I was 8 and thought my world was ending. My parents seemed so happy. I thought everything was perfect. One minute they talked about trying to give me a sibling and the next minute it was over. Part of me still wishes their marriage had worked. Not that I think they should have stayed miserable. But I wish we could all have been as happy as I was with them together. It wasn't to be, and I think they did the right thing before it got bad between them. But my stepbrother doesn't want me to say all this. He was actually disgusted when I told him our initial feelings were different. He was especially pissed that I wish it had worked because he said I got even better just like he did. He told me he needed me to say what he said to the boys. I told him I could not speak to them under the conditions he was setting. He then went and told my mom. And my mom was not at all shocked. But her husband, stepbrother's dad, was. He never realized any part of me still had a soft spot for my nuclear family before my parents' divorce. He's also saying it's wrong not to talk to his grandsons. They're both pissy over it, but I mean, I can't speak to them under the conditions set, and I know he will monitor me closely during a conversation, now that he knows so am I the idiot. Not the idiot. Your brother wants you to be part of his propaganda for the divorce and grease the skids, so he doesn't look like a bad guy to his kids. That's what this is. He wants to bring in outside testimonials like yours to help bolster his case, but also wants to make sure they are controlled and on message for what he wants. I'd simply just decline his request. Unless you can be honest with him and speak from your experience, you shouldn't just be the parrot he wants you to be. He's trying to manipulate you into doing what he wants. I appreciate a part of you still wishes you had your nuclear family, but it sounds like you are quite close with your step relations. He could ask you to speak about your initial reservations and talk about how you understand their feelings, whilst still giving a positive message that step relations aren't always bad. I appreciate I'm making an assumption here, so I hope you do have a positive relationship with your steps. It's not fair on you or the children to lie, but agreeing with your stepbrother a positive spin on your experiences isn't necessarily bad. Validation of their feelings whilst knowing it isn't the end of the world, despite feeling it would offer them a lot more reassurance, rather than telling them how great it is and to get over it. Not the idiot. Experiences are different, especially with such big emotional events than the divorce of your parents. I personally find it very close-minded from your stepbrother and stepfather to expect you to have had the same experience and feelings about your family breaking up than they had, and then being angry that you are not. Your stepbrother is basically asking you to lie to his kids because he can't accept that they don't like the situation and don't react how he wants them to. Both is absolutely not okay. Don't let them pressure you into lying to the kids. They don't deserve it. So the other day my brother brings home his girlfriend. He's been telling me about her for a few months now, but we've never met. And she is lovely. We start chatting, life, complaining about my brother, etc., and then I bring up how I've been having issues with the gears on my bike. This prompts her to reveal that she too has been having all sorts of issues with her bike and how she's so disappointed in it because it's this expensive 1k pounds electric bike that she really invested in, and she thinks it's shocking that she's having to pay so much to get it repaired every other month. I agree. That is really shocking. So, I offered to have a look at it for her. I did a basic repair course when I was in university, but to be honest, I was just being nosy. I mean, it's a 1k pounds bike, of course I want to see what makes it so special. She agrees to. I start having a look and then I notice a label. Max weight 120 kilograms, aka 18-ish stone. And it's immediately clear what the issue is. CI 22, currently weigh 18 stone. And compared to the idiot 29, I am tiny. So I wait until it's just the two of us and I say to her, I don't mean to be rude, but I think the issue behind all this is that you exceed the weight limit. And she absolutely loses it. She starts ranting about how she isn't even classed as overweight, like sure she's a heavier girl, but I'll have you know I am 2 pounds under 15 stone, and she is yelling and screaming, and it's a whole production. I tried to keep it quiet so as to not embarrass her, but now here comes my brother and the rest of her family coming over to see what all the commotion is about. She explains to them what I've said, they start getting angry with me, and so I just turn around and snap. I am literally 18 stone, I am medically obese. You are twice my size and clearly too heavy for this bike. And yeah, I'm pretty convinced I'm the idiot here, but I am just so pissed off because I tried to keep it a private matter. Not the idiot for intent, but probably could have been phrased more gently, especially not knowing her well at all, this being the first time you've met. Hey, I noticed this sticker on your bike, geez that's not very much, I weigh almost that much. Then let her process that and draw her own conclusions, later and alone if need be. That being said, I have trouble eyeballing people's weights, some do seem to have denser builds, muscle weighs more than fat, etc. One of my best friends weighs about 30 pounds more than I'd estimate her at and isn't a bodybuilder or anything. Then another friend, sedentary lifestyle, is well into the medically obese category, but the actual scale number isn't nearly what I'd think. Weight is a really tricky topic to tackle. My policy is generally just to not bring it up. I think you meant well and I don't think you acted callously or cruelly. Though, judging people's weight based on how they look is a bad thing to do. But even though you meant well, you're essentially a stranger to this person, and you said something that was probably really confronting and painful. It sounds like she overreacted quite a bit, but I'm also not surprised she responded badly. It may have been better to quietly mention it to your brother instead, so maybe he could broach the subject later. You used logic to solve a problem the girlfriend was having. The problem was the delivery. You were too blunt. How do I know? I am a blunt communicator and have been attempting to temper this fault my whole life. Then when she freaked out you were downright rude about her weight. Were you wrong? No, she is too heavy for the bike and that is why she is having issues with breakage. Could have been nicer about it. For that, soft you are the idiot. Soft idiot for the girlfriend as well. She didn't want to hear a perfectly logical explanation for her problem. My younger daughter, 12, has ADHD inattentive type. She isn't the bouncing off the wall stereotype, rather, most of her struggles go on in her head. She finds it extremely difficult to focus on schoolwork, zones out frequently, etc. Recently she had an exam and managed to score an A for every subject. This was the first time she had achieved this, so my husband and I were very proud and brought her out for dinner plus got her a bicycle, something she had wanted for a while. My older daughter, 15, was upset at our favoritism because she's always been a straight A student and we never showered her with praise like we did with her sister. I tried to explain to her that her sister faced difficulties that she never had to deal with and I asked her to be more understanding, plus I also reminded her that we always brought her out for a nice and expensive dinner whenever she came back with her good results. We got in a bit of an argument and she kept bringing up the bike, even though I repeatedly stated that it was a perfectly reasonable reward. Things have been tense between us, my husband agrees with me, but my mother tells me that I'm playing favorites, which I really don't think I was or am. It's also worth mentioning that the only difference in the way I treat my daughters is that I'm actually more strict with my youngest because she needs more prompting to start and finish tasks. Am I the idiot? You're the idiot. My parents had a reward system for my older brother when it came to grades and told me I would have the same reward system when I started getting letter grades. Turns out that I was a good student and I only ever got A's. My parents took away my reward system as a result, since I didn't need one to succeed and kept my brother's. It was awful. I tried to purposely get worse grades so I could get the same attention as my brother, but instead, I got punished for getting B's since I set a precedent. Just resulted in me being extremely unmotivated, resenting my brother, and I have imposter syndrome as an adult. Turns out both my brother and I have ADHD. You're the idiot. I say this as the child that was in your younger daughter's position growing up. My parents didn't mean to favor me, they were trying to build me up and yeah they did, but it's something my older sister never forgot. After a while her straight A average was no longer important to her because she never felt it mattered as much to my parents as my grades did. Honestly, you shouldn't have gotten your younger daughter a bike as a reward if all you would have given the older one was a nice meal out. Keep it up, and you will breed resentment and hurt, which will ultimately damage your relationship with your older daughter. You're the idiot. My older sister is on the autism spectrum and has ADHD, and my parents have always done the same. One good grade on a test and she gets her choice of dinner, praised daily and boasting on Facebook. I got good grades consistently through school, and there was never any praise. It made me feel like my best wasn't good enough, and just because she has more difficulty, my work shouldn't be rewarded. Especially with something as big as a bike. It's a huge physical reminder that the other daughter isn't good enough. I see where you're coming from, but as someone consistently in your other daughter's place, this can be so damaging to her psyche. Ask how you can make it up to her next time she gets a good grade. So, I, 32, recently had my best friend, let's call her Sally, 33, of nearly 20 years come stay at my home for a weekend. I moved to a different state for college where I met my fiancé and we live in our college state. Sally offered to come stay with me for a weekend to help me wedding dress shop and do some wedding planning. Fiancé and I started an investment firm years ago which has done well. I told Sally when we started the firm, but she never showed interest or asked about it. When I picked her up from the airport and she made comments about my nice car and I felt uncomfortable, changed the subject. She commented that my engagement ring was much bigger in person and joked that it must be fake. I just laughed it off. When we got to my house she asked me bluntly how we afford this. I told her truthfully our investment firm has done well. She was upset and asked me why I never mentioned my lifestyle change to her. I told her it never crossed my mind, but I wasn't hiding anything. When I got engaged I sent her many pictures of my ring. When we purchased our home I sent out change of address cards. I jokingly asked if I was supposed to send out my updated tax returns too, but that did not go well, and I could see how I came across as the idiot. She made several comments about the cost of restaurants we took her to, fiancé and I paid for everything, my wedding dress budget, etc. Then she told me about her dream of opening up her own holistic wellness studio and asked me to invest $250,000. I was shocked. I told her honestly we don't just have a ton of cash laying around, the majority is tied up in investments, and we are planning a wedding, want to have children soon and just have other financial priorities. I told Sally we could discuss a much smaller amount of money, but she would have to find another way to fund her studio. She was angry and told me I am greedy, spoiled and selfish. She said I have a lot of money now and am unwilling to help my best friend, and it speaks to how much I have changed as a person, and I invited her this weekend just to flaunt my wealth at her. I told her I did not win the lottery and suddenly become wealthy overnight and don't have money to fund everyone's dreams. We worked hard for years and saved every dime and invested everything into our business. We lived in a studio and shared an old broken car for years. I also told her, before we made any big purchases we paid off our parents' mortgages and I paid off my brother's med school loans, and again told her we could discuss a smaller investment and I could help her with a business plan. I apologized if it seemed we were trying to flash our wealth. We wanted to show her a good time in the city since she had never been, and I wanted to thank her for flying in to help with wedding planning. She remained angry and left the next morning without speaking to us. Not the idiot. You treated her to a nice weekend, she responded by getting upset and then asking for a huge sum of money. She is completely in the wrong. If she is envious, that's one thing and it's understandable, and maybe she could talk about it honestly with you and then deal with her feelings with a therapist. But to think, oh, she's rich, she needs to give me money, is just so entitled and rude. Not the idiot. I'm pretty sure you didn't earn a lot of money by investing $250,000 in the sketchy dreams of greedy old friends. If she was a good candidate for investment, she would have wanted to prepare a prospectus for you to consider. Instead she wanted a handout. I do think you complicated things unnecessarily, enlisting all the things you did for family, it was none of her business. That being said, I would scratch her permanently off my guest list. You and your fiancé are where you are today because of a lot of hard work. You also helped your family members before you spent any money on yourselves. Once your friend realized how well you have done she looked you as an ATM machine that she had every right to tap into. When you were not willing to hand her the cash on a silver platter, she was not willing to accept your answer. You offered to help her prepare an investment plan and modest investment, which was more than fair. Instead of putting in the hard work it would take to become successful in her own right, she is trying to take a shortcut. Who knows if she could actually achieve a dream that she was not willing to work for.